Take a look at the top half of the La Liga table, where Real Madrid picked up a 1-0 win over 9-man Getafe yesterday to go top, 2 points clear of Barcelona, who won against Girona on Saturday by a score of 2-1. Barcelona did win that game, but it was a bit sketchy at times. Let's hear from Hansi Flick looking back at the match against Girona.
When we analyze the match against Girona, it's something about, I always speak, you know that, I always speak about positioning. The right high, the right distance between the players and the opponent is very important. And if you're too far away from that, you lose. You have to run too much, give the opponent a little bit more time to play out, and then this is also what kills us in the defense. So it's about that. So we have to find the right position, and from there we have to jump. We have to press.
Mario, help me out here a little bit. It sounds like he's talking about some really basic stuff. Why, if it's so basic, can't Barcelona figure this out?
Yeah, because, you know, look, what he's talking about, of course, he understands his team is a little bit vulnerable at the moment. And, you know, like, sometimes you also, when you see a coach talk like that, and they try to take the heat away also from the team a little bit. But if you see, you know, when I watched Barcelona already that game, I saw them scoring at the end against Girona, and you see Yamal coming off like, you know, like the bench, celebrating with his team. You knew how important this win was, because sometimes these small wins, people might think like, okay, they should have won the game and things like that. No, it wasn't that easy. It was very difficult for them. That's why they celebrated the goal like that when they scored, you know, at the end. But the thing for me is, when you are a team like this, they are in that position now. The injuries are talking, and they have to be careful now, because sometimes it's not always like, okay, you can get used to it and we can talk about it and say like, oh, it happens and this and that. And no, guys, they got to fix it now, because, you know, like, if they don't look at players or they don't look after players really well, because now he's talking about even Rafinha and Torres, you know, hoping to make it. Then they got the big game coming up in the weekend next. They got to hurry up, because if not, those guys, if you don't get them fit, they have a big problem.
Instead, the mindset of these players, and I suppose it's something that has been made a philosophy of Hansi Flick, is, and many of those sequences we saw it, secondary defenders that were in a position where they could drop off and actually play the angles to where now, if the ball gets played in behind, they're able to cut the angle because they have the diagonal movement that is going to cut off the attacking player. Instead, Eddie Garcia, no, I'm going to step up. Cubarsí, I'm going to step up. Step up to where? The run is already happening. The ball's already being played through. You're not giving yourself any room for mistake here. You're not giving yourself any room to be able to make up the difference, make a challenge, and somehow impact the play defensively. It's all too easy. And I'm not even a defender. And I honestly watch this, and I think to myself, if I were teaching defender, if I were running a class and say, okay, this is what we do when we defend, I would show that video, that compilation that we just showed there, and would say, kids, don't do that. Don't ever do that. We're going to do everything but that. And yet Barcelona continues to do it. They did it against Sevilla. They did it against PSG. They are doing it against Girona. It doesn't matter who they play. They get exposed. So, I repeat, they're not a little bit vulnerable. They're a lot vulnerable.
It does matter who they play to some extent, in that Girona couldn't take advantage of the mistakes, right?
Yes.
On Sunday, you got Real Madrid, and not only Real Madrid, Stevie, Kylian Mbappe, who's red hot right now. We saw him get the goal yesterday against Getafe. I mean, that to me seems like a recipe for disaster for this Barcelona back line. Like, how do they fix it? Or at least make it so they can survive Mbappe? Because I just see him as such a threat against this defense.
They ain't fixing it for this weekend. We're talking about things that we were talking about last year. Because as the coach, when you see it and you don't have a leader to organise it, you cannot play the high line. And so what you do is you absolutely tell them, to Ali's point, if we don't have anybody closing the ball, we must drop. We must drop. And you say it till they're sick listening to you saying it. And that hasn't happened. So they ain't fixing it before this game. And it doesn't look as though he's going to try and change it. So this is what's going to trip them up continuously. It's
You
not
know-
changing.
Go ahead, Mario.
You know, this is kind of a big problem with a lot of coaches, right? For me, you know, when you're a great coach, you try to understand what is the material I have in front of me and how can I use it to the best of my ability. But sometimes they stick to what they know and what they want to do so much that it doesn't even make the player that you have in your team make him better. It makes him even worse. So holding on to that and seeing who was the only player that almost was reacting on that the ball through was Koundé, but he's a right back. He cannot hold anybody in the middle. The clips that we see, he needs to focus on making sure that everybody in your team has the capability to understand what you want to play. And if you don't have them, change the line and drop it maybe 20 yards so it's not that high.
It's really frustrating to sit and watch it. Such a good team. Because it's not, it shouldn't be a difficult thing. It's one, you're telling them one thing. If there's nobody closing the ball, you can't hold the line. That's it. This is not rocket science. If there's nobody closing the ball, you cannot hold the line. End of story.
Is part of the reason that there hasn't been a change because playing this way is what allows them to be so dangerous going forward? Like, because that's the only reason I could see sticking with this. You just think we're going to outscore people 4-3.
No, that's reckless. You shouldn't be coaching Barcelona, Real Madrid, a team like that. If you're so reckless, the basics of coaching, you're not going to bother with it. Quite frankly, I would suggest that the problem is the players are dumb.
That'll be a headline.
You can tell. When you're coaching
Why? Because they won't sort it out on their own?
When you're coaching players, you can tell players 1,000 times, and some of them don't get it.
But all of the players don't get it? Not one guy back there sorting it?
Why is this team continuing to gamble and be completely and utterly reckless? Why?
I don't have the answer. Yeah.
Because they're dumb.
Okay. Well, what we do know is that consistently and repeatedly, one ball beats everybody.
Yeah.
One pass beats everybody. And that's not even up for discussion. That is not a matter of opinion. It's factually, you see it happening repeatedly in every single game, and they don't seem to address it. And that is the part that, to me, it's really hard to fathom and really hard to digest and process. If I'm seeing a problem that is happening regularly, that it happens repeatedly, and it doesn't matter the opposition, everybody's seeing it, everybody is picking it out, and everybody's exploiting it, then maybe not everybody else is the problem. Maybe we are the problem, and we should adjust that it. For whatever reason, it doesn't seem to be happening.
And if you do work on it and it still doesn't work, you have to make changes. Oh, wait a minute. They don't have anybody to change it.
There you go. All right, we'll have plenty more on El Clásico throughout the week here on ESPN FC.